أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله لا يستحيي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين الذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض أولئك هم الخاسرون كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم ثم إليه ترجعون هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا ثم استوى إلى السماء فسواهن 7 سماوات وهو بكل شيء عليم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
Behold, Allah is not ashamed to propound the parable of a gnat, or even of something more lowly. On hearing these parables, the believers know that it is the truth from their Lord, while those bent on denying the truth say, "What does Allah mean by these parables?" Thus He causes many to go astray, just as He directs many to the right way. And He thereby causes to go astray only the transgressors. Here an objection is indirectly refuted. At several places in the Quran, spiders, flies, gnats, and so on are mentioned in order to elucidate certain points. Opponents objected to this on the grounds that such objects were too lowly to find a place in the Book of God. They indicated that had the Quran indeed been a revelation from God, it would not have mentioned such trivial objects. Those who do not wish to understand things and are not motivated by the urge to seek the truth become enmeshed in superficial questions relating to the Book of God, draw altogether erroneous conclusions when they encounter references to apparently insignificant things such as gnats, and are thereby thrown further and further away from the truth. Those who seek the truth and possess true perception, on the other hand, penetrate through these superficialities and perceive the gems of wisdom that they embody. This appreciation makes their hearts attest that such wisdom could have no other source than God Himself. Fasiq in Arabic language means transgressor, disobedient who break the covenant of Allah after its firm binding, and cut asunder what Allah has commanded to be joined, and spread mischief on earth. They are the utter losers. The injunctions or ordinances issued by a sovereign to his servants and subjects are termed AHD in Arabic, since compliance with them becomes obligatory for the latter.
AHD has been used here in this sense. The AHD referred to signifies God's eternal command that All human beings are obliged to render their service, obedience, and worship to him alone.
After its binding refers to the promise made by mankind to remain faithful to the injunctions of God at the time of Adam's creation, that is, the transgressors strike their blows at those very relationships upon which the individual and collective well-being of mankind depends, and which God wants maintained on a sound basis. This small sentence is of great import as it embraces the whole of human morality and social life and extends from relationships between individuals to those between nations. To cut asunder what Allah has commanded should he join does not merely signify the disruption of relationships between man and man. It forbids the establishment of all forms of human relationship except the right and permissible ones. For wrong and prohibited bonds between people have the same consequences as the disruption of the bonds of human relationship. As such, in these three sentences, the nature of transgression and the attitude of transgressors is fully defined. To debase the relationship between man and God and between man and man necessarily leads to mischief. Those who spread this mischief on earth are transgressors. How can you be ungrateful to Allah who bestowed life upon you when you were lifeless? Then he will cause you to die and will again bring you back to life so that you will be returned to him. It is he who created for you all that is on earth and then turned above and fashioned it into 7 heavens. He knows all things. It is difficult to explain precisely what is meant by the 7 heavens. In all ages, man has tried with the help of observation and speculation to conceptualize the heavens, i.e. that which lies beyond and above the earth. As we well know, the concepts that have thus developed have constantly changed. Hence, it would be improper to tie the meaning of these words of the Qur'an to any one of these numerous concepts. What might be broadly inferred from this statement is that either God has divided the universe beyond the earth into 7 distinct spheres, or that this earth is located in that part of the universe which consists of 7 different spheres. In this sentence, attention is drawn to 2 important facts. First, man is warned against disbelief and rebellion against God, for God knows all that man does, and none of his actions are hidden from him. Second, it is suggested to man that if he turns away from the all-knowing God, from the one who is the source of all knowledge, this can only leave him groping in the darkness of ignorance and error, when there is no source of truth knowledge except God, and when that very light which alone can illuminate man's life can be obtained from none else but him. What good can come out of deviation from the truth? Just think when your Lord said to the angels, "Lo, I am about to place a vicegerent on earth," they said. "Will you place on it one who will spread mischief and shed blood while we celebrate your glory and extol your holiness?" He said, "Surely I know what you do not know." Thus far, man has been summoned to serve and obey God on the grounds that God is his creator and sustainer, that in his grasp lies man's life and death, that he alone is the Lord who rules over the entire universe in which he lives.
In view of this, the only attitude which can be deemed appropriate for man is one of service and subjection to God. The same idea is presented in the following section, but supported on slightly different grounds, namely that God created man as his vicegerent. In this capacity, man is obliged not merely to serve and worship him, but also to act in accordance with his instructions and guidance. The Quran warns that if man allows himself to be misled by his archenemy Satan, he will be guilty of the most serious rebellion and will have to face the consequences of his action. In this connection, the Quran defines precisely the true nature of man and his correct position in the universe. It also enlightens us to a period of man's past which is otherwise inaccessible. What the Quran tells us here, with its practical consequences, is of far greater value than knowledge derived by unearthing bones and pottery and piecing together scattered fragments of information with the help of conjecture. The word malak in Arabic means message bearer. Angels are not depersonalized and abstract forces, they are beings with personalities of their own and are employed by God for the administration of his universe. They are his faithful servants. Some people have incorrectly considered them to be, in some way or another, God's partners in his lordship and Godhead, while others have considered them to be his kinsfolk, turning them into gods and worshipping them. Khalifah or vicegerent is one who exercises the authority delegated to him by his principal, and does so in the capacity of his deputy and agent. Hence,
Whatever authority he possesses is not inherently his own, but is derived from and circumscribed by the limits set by his principle.
A vicegerent is not entitled to do what he pleases, but is obliged to carry out the will of his master.
If the vicegerent were either to begin thinking himself the real owner, and to use the authority delegated to him in whatever manner he pleased, or if he were to acknowledge someone other than the real owner as his lord and master and to follow his directions, these would be deemed acts of infidelity and rebellion. This was not said by way of objection or protest. It was said rather by way of inquiry, and in order to satisfy their curiosity. It is inconceivable that the angels could object to any of God's decisions. The word vicegerent suggested to them that the proposed species of creation would be placed on earth with some authority. It was incomprehensible to them how a species of being which had been invested with discretionary power and authority could conform with the overall order of the universe, which is based on absolute and involuntary subservience to the will of God. They thought that investing anyone with authority in any part of the universe would lead to mischief and disorder. It is this aspect which the angels were curious about. This does not mean that the angels considered themselves suitable for vicegerency. They merely wanted to point out that God's orders were already being carried out fully, that they, the angels, were engaged in doing his will, and that according to his divine will, the entire universe was kept in a state of absolute purity. Moreover, God's glory was constantly being extolled, and his holiness celebrated. Since all these things were being done, they wanted to ask what gap was still considered to exist that called for the creation of a new species of being to fill it. The word tasbih has two meanings: to proclaim glory and to exert oneself earnestly and energetically. In the same way, takdis has two meanings: to celebrate or proclaim holiness and to purify. This was an answer to the latter doubt expressed by the angels. The angels were told that the reason for the appointment of a vicegerent was best known to God alone and could not be understood by them. Despite the services rendered by the angels, something over and above their work was still required. God decided, therefore, to create a new species of being in the world and to invest it with some authority. Then Allah taught Adam the names of all things and presented them to the angels and said, "If you are right that the appointment of a vicegerent will cause mischief, then tell me the names of these things." The nature of man's knowledge is such that he acquires information, different things, through their names. Hence it might be said that the sum total of man's knowledge consists of the names of things. To teach Adam the names of all things means therefore imparting the knowledge of those things. Us, you, only you, are all-knowing, all-wise, they said. Glory to you, we have no knowledge except what you taught us. 43 You, only you are all-knowing, all-wise. It seems that the knowledge of each angel and each genre of angel is confined to its own sphere of competence. The angels appointed to administer, let us say, things relating to air have full knowledge about this subject, but have no knowledge, say, about water, and so on and so forth. Man's range of knowledge, however, is comprehensive. Even if man's information in a particular area may be narrower than that of the angel directly concerned with it, the total range of his knowledge has a comprehensiveness which has not been granted to the angels.